Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. Today on The Young and the Restless, Daniel turns to his father for help. Phyllis' theory falls on deaf ears and Chance finds new evidence. All products and services featured are independently chosen by editors. However, soaps.com may receive a commission on orders placed through its retail links, and the retailer may receive certain auditable data for accounting purposes. At Society, Nick asks an upset Phyllis what's going on. She shakes her head. Daniel and Lucy. This is a nightmare. They've lost the center of their world and can't even grieve because her son is being framed for Heather's murder. Nick asks how this is possible. Phyllis says the forensics team wants to search the apartment, so they had to move out. She asks if he can imagine having to tell her bereaved granddaughter that her father is being framed for murder. Nick asks what was found in the apartment. Phyllis says they found Heather's phone and some bloody towels that had been planted there. Nick asks how that is possible. Phyllis replies, "I don't know. Why don't you ask Sharon?" Nick asks why she thinks Sharon would know something. Phyllis asks him not to be naive about Sharon and what she's capable of. He told her that she was mentally unstable. Nick says the past few weeks have been traumatic for Sharon, who was triggered by Lucy and Fate's accident and by Daniel. She has to consider her mindset. Phyllis shouts that she doesn't care about Sharon's mindset. She's sick and tired of everybody tiptoeing around about how Sharon's going to react and worrying about her being unstable. Sharon killed Heather. Period. Nick tells Phyllis that it isn't doing anyone any good for her to stir the pot. Phyllis says Sharon hates Daniel and blames him for Cassie's death. She wants Daniel to feel the same pain, so she killed Heather. She's trying to save herself, so she's framing Phyllis' son, who would never hurt anyone. But she's trying to make him look guilty for killing the woman he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. Nick thinks this is preposterous. Phyllis asks if Sharon told him that she went to Daniel and Heather's apartment the night that Heather died. She didn't say anything to Lucy or Daniel, but she finally fessed up to the police. Nick asks Phyllis if she's confronted Sharon with this. Phyllis would love to confront that bitch, but she promised Daniel she wouldn't. Nick says that's good because that would be the last thing Sharon needs right now. Furious, Phyllis can't believe her son is being framed and facing life behind bars, and Nick's more worried about Sharon's feelings. "I don't want to talk to you." Nick follows her to the bar. He's concerned about both of them, but there's no way Sharon did this. Phyllis asks who did it then. Nick tells her to let Chance handle it with his investigation. Phyllis can't because his investigation is leading right toward her son. At Daniel's apartment, Chance turns on the light and looks around. Two CSI members come in behind him as he gazes at a framed photo of Daniel and Summer. He shows them where he found the towels and phone. He explains that whoever did this was in a hurry, and there's likely more evidence. It's critical that they're thorough and get this right. After a while, one of the CSI guys tells Chance, "We've got something." Sharon opens her door to Daniel. She asks how he's doing. Daniel says, "You came to my house the night you saw Heather. What did you want?" She lets him in, and he asks if she'll answer his question. Sharon says she had already apologized to him, and she wanted to extend that same courtesy to Heather and Lucy. Daniel questions her just showing up at the apartment. Heather must have been surprised. Sharon says he was, but she accepted her apology. She seemed on edge, so she asked her about it. It was almost as though she couldn't hold it in. She blurted that the two of them had had a terrible fight. Daniel squints. What else did she say? Sharon says not much. Daniel questions her not saying anything to him about this. Sharon didn't want him to be reminded that the last time he saw her alive, they were arguing. Daniel says it's not true. The last time he saw Heather, he kissed her goodbye and told her he loved her. Something is very off here. Sharon says Heather was terrified of him. Daniel says that is absolutely not possible. Daniel tells Sharon she needs to go to the police and tell them there was no way Heather was terrified of him. Sharon doesn't like his tone. Daniel thinks that's rich. He's fighting for his life here. Sharon asks if the police suspect him. Daniel says they do. Her running to the cops with her fake conversation with Heather hasn't helped him a lot. Sharon was only trying to help the police. Daniel asks how a fake conversation would help. He finds it very hard to believe that it never crossed her mind that the cops wouldn't immediately target him. That's obviously what she wanted. Sharon denies it. Daniel says someone hurt Heather, and it was brutal. Was it you? Did you hurt her? Sharon can't believe he'd ask her that. Daniel says the police are asking him the same question, and he hasn't once showed the level of rage that she showed toward Heather and Lucy that past several weeks. Sharon admits she let things get out of hand. She was in pain and angry, and regrets her actions. That's why she wanted to apologize. Daniel says that doesn't mean that's the way it played out. Did Heather upset her? Did she attack her? Sharon would never hurt the woman he loves, much less kill her. She asks if there have been any new developments, or if the police have found proof. Daniel won't get into that with her. Had he packed up his family and left, Heather would still be alive. That's something he has to live with for the rest of his life. Sharon's sorry. Daniel says his daughter is shattered and needs her dad. I can't be locked up. Sharon suggests he try to get some rest and try to find some peace. He's being irrational and desperate. Daniel squints. By coming over here. That's what you're saying, right? Sharon tells him that what he's accusing her of couldn't possibly be true. In society, Nick tells Phyllis she has to stop with these wild accusations. Phyllis can't sit back and let her son go to jail. Nick complains this isn't fair to Sharon. Phyllis scoffs that he's so brainwashed by her. Nick says, just leave her alone. I'm serious. Stay away from her. In Daniel's apartment, Chance shines an ultraviolet light on the floor and sees where the pool of blood laid. He declares that Heather was bludgeoned there and her body thrown into the river. He uses the light on a statue of an octopus and says he's found the murder weapon. He bags it up as the final autopsy report comes in showing unusual marks on the back of the victim's head. He's sure they'll match up. Just then, Chance gets a call from Phyllis, who wants to meet up. She has information he'll find useful. Chance isn't sure he has time right now. Phyllis tells him to make time and meet her at Crimson Lakes. Chance meets Phyllis in a booth at Crimson Lakes. She says he knows Daniel, and must know he is innocent. She asks about the search. Chance can't tell her anything, and asks her to let the police do their job. Phyllis can't do that if the police are building a case against her son. She says the evidence was planted at Daniel's apartment. Sharon saw Heather at that apartment the night she died. She lied and didn't tell anyone about that. Why is that fact not given the same weight as everything else? She's sure that with some digging, that fact will show Sharon as the killer he's looking for. Chance feels there's no way Sharon is capable of murder. Phyllis sighs. You dated her, didn't you? She argues the same thing can be said about her son. Phyllis asks if he knows what Sharon has done in her past. Chance knows, but he's also aware of what she's pulled off. It's no secret how far she's willing to go, especially when her kids are in trouble. At Sharon's place, she tells Daniel not to go to a dark place. She's been there and almost lost everything. His family will get him through this. Daniel says he should go and probably shouldn't have come in the first place. He walks out. Sharon unravels and Cameron appears to tell her to get a hold of herself. If she loses it now, there's no coming back. Sharon shouts, Daniel asked me straight out if I hurt Heather. Cameron says she played it perfectly, but she worries he'll still suspect her. Cameron says suspicions are all he's got. She planted enough evidence to bury him in prison for the rest of his life. I promise you, this is almost over. Danny says that whatever he needs, he's there. He offers to cancel the tour and come home to support him and Lucy. Daniel doesn't want him to do that. He needs to protect Lucy from what's ahead and wants to send her out to stay with him on tour for a few weeks. Danny would be thrilled to have her, but he wants to know the situation. Daniel says there's evidence that Heather's death wasn't an accident. The suspect is being framed. He asks him to talk to Christine to ask her if she can come back there and defend him. Danny's stunned as he realizes that the suspect is his son. At Sharon's place, she places logs in the fire and flashes to dragging Heather's body out of the apartment and dumping it in the river. As she cries, she hallucinates Nick there offering to help her with build a fire. He knows something's bothering her and urges her to talk to him. He reminds her of all the crises they've been through together. I can't help you if you don't tell me what's going on with you. She says she made a mistake. Nick assures her they've made lots of mistakes and they're always forgiven. Cameron appears and warns her not to let Mr. Warm and Fuzzy to convince her to drop her guard and spill her guts. She'll be screwed royally. Sharon tells him to go away. Cameron reminds her that he's guided her every step of the way and is making sure she gets the life she wants. Sharon cries, I am not this person. This is not me. I'm a good person. Cameron chuckles that she thinks telling Nick will fix everything. Does she think he'll run to her rescue? He tells her she's weak and too lovesick to see straight. If she confesses it cold, hard reality, she is done. At Crimson Lights, Chance continues to defend Sharon to Phyllis, who points out she was attacking Heather, Daniel, and Lucy for weeks. How is she not a suspect? Chance maintains she's not a suspect. She accuses him of being biased. Chance says it's not personal. He's doing his job. He gathers evidence, analyzes it, and follows where it leads. His phone rings and he steps away. Phyllis follows him to the patio and asks if there is anything in the search that can prove Daniel's innocence. Chance will only say, "You'll know soon enough." At the club, Danny is furious on the video call with Daniel. "This is crazy. Of course you didn't kill Heather. Daniel needs to get Lucy out of town so she doesn't see him in cuffs and on trial. Danny's sure it will never get that far. Daniel has to prepare in case it does." Danny learns that they've been asked to leave their apartment and are staying at the club, and says this is insanity. Daniel can hear Lucy crying at night and wants to tell her everything will be okay, but he can't do that. Danny wants to get on the next flight home, but Daniel says no. He asks his father to tell him that he'll take Lucy. Danny agrees, but he asks what evidence the police have against him. Daniel says it's solid enough that he's expecting a knock on his door any moment. Christine should get there as soon as possible. In Sharon's living room, she protests to Cameron that Nick will help her out of this. Cameron's sure when he hears that she dumped Heather's body and framed Daniel, he won't help her. "I'm the one rescuing you, not Nick. Me. Nick will go straight to the cops, and then where are you gonna be? Huh." Sharon protests that this needs to end now. "I need to make things right." Cameron tells her she needs him. Hallucinated Nick stands up and tells Sharon that whenever she wants to talk, he's right there. She says, "I do." Suddenly, a knock snapped her out of it. It's Nick at the door. She cries, "I can't do this. I can't take it anymore." Next on The Young and the Restless, Sharon is backed into a corner. Christine returns home to help Daniel, and Jack shares disturbing news with Tracy.